All right, so now we have the angle measures and the radians, and hopefully you feel okay about where those are coming from. The next thing is we're going to discuss what these coordinates will be. Now remember in quadrant 1, it's positive, positive, right? Your x values and your y values are positive. Quadrant 2, your x values are negative, your y values are positive. Quadrant 3, negative, negative. And quadrant 4, positive, negative. Now, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a right triangle with this 30-degree marking, or pi over 6. So if you look at this, we have a right triangle. The only thing we know about this right triangle is that this angle measures 30 degrees. That's what that 30 represents, or pi over 6, but I'm just going to stick with 30. So this is 30 degrees. Well, if we know that's 30 degrees and this is 90, then we know, and again, I know this isn't fair because I can easily erase things, that this would be 60 degrees up here. So then we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. The other thing we know is that our length of our radius is 1, hence the name unit circle. That's our radius, right? Remember, the radius is from the center of your circle to the end point of your circle. We do not know this length or this length. And if you remember being on the Cartesian plane, in other words, talking about XY coordinates, your x represents how far you moved left or right from your origin, and how far your y represents how far you move up and down from your origin. So we need to figure out those lengths. Well, what we discussed when we first met each other was special right triangles, and this is a special right triangle, 30, 60, 90. So we know from our hypotenuse it's 1, we can go and figure out our short leg, which is across from the 30. And what we do is we take our hypotenuse and we divide it by 2. Remember, that was a formula, what we did. And then we want to go ahead and from our short leg to our long leg, we multiply by root 3. And if I multiply that straight across, it would be root 3 over 2. So what we found here is that our x value is root 3 over 2, because that's how far we moved over from the origin. We moved to the right, and then we moved up 1/2. So it's not terribly clear at this moment when we're going to use these values. All I'm asking is if those values make sense of where they're coming from at this point. Now, again, it's getting messy, so I'm going to go ahead and erase. And yours is going to be really messy, I understand, but you're going to have a nice one to print from D2L. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a right triangle using the 45-degree angle. So that is showing this is 45 degrees. Well, that's 90, so that means this angle up here also has to be 45, right, to get to that 180. The only thing we know, the only length we know, is our hypotenuse, which is 1, because that's your radius. Well, remind yourself, how did we find our lengths in a 45, 45, 90-degree triangle? Well, the formula was, from your hypotenuse to a leg, you divide by root 2. And then this one would be the same, right? They're the same length. Well, we've also discussed we can't leave radicals in the denominator, so you need to rationalize that. And if I do that over here, I would multiply by root 2. Whoops, I ran out of space. Let me go over here. 1 over root 2 times root 2 over root 2. So you end up getting root 2 over 2. So what I moved from the origin to the right, root 2 over 2. and I moved up root 2 over 2. All right, let's try one more. Again, I'm going to erase some things so I can focus on the other stuff. All right, now I create a triangle with this one. Now what that's telling me is that this angle here is now 60 degrees. And so that's saying if this is a right triangle that I created, well, if that's 60 and this is 90, that forces this guy to be 30 degrees. Again, the only thing we know is our hypotenuse to be 1. We want to find our short leg first, which is across from your 30. So this would be 1/2. And then this one I multiply by root 3. And so this coordinate is I went to the right 1/2 and I went up root 3 over 2. And what I'd like you to do is to stop this video and go ahead and see if you could figure out maybe just one full quadrant. So if I'm looking at this one, well, now your right triangle is there, and you would use that reference angle. Remember, we talked about that. So if this is 180 degrees, right? Well, this reference angle is 60. Okay, and then you want to pay attention to what would be positive and negative based on your location. So stop this video, try it on your own, and then you're going to start the next video and we're going to go through all the values.